designer, Thea Steele. And this is playing the Junk Reanimator deck. So this is, I think, one of the first things we're talking about is whether he'll be able to go over the top of those Thragtusk decks. When I look at Cedric's deck, one of the things which we really noticed, I suppose, when first testing the standard format for the Pro Tour, was that while there were a lot of Thragtusk mirrors going on, and for those of you who've played Thragtusk mirrors, you know that the life totals can really get out of hand in those matchups. Right now, Falconwrath Aristocrat is a really hard card to answer in these mirrors. So what Cedric's kind of trying to bank on is that, you know, I think he'll expect that Thea will play Thragtusks, and he's just going to hope to be able to, you know, maybe deal that 30 damage. If he can establish, you know, with these flyers, particularly Aristocrat, something that Thea just can't answer, you know, he'll be more than happy just to deal the extra damage, as opposed to, you know, trying to race. He's not going to try to race under Thragtusk. He's going to try to go over the top of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it looks like we're starting out here. Cedric is on the play and has an Arbor Elf off of Forest. Okay, is starting out with an Overgrown Tomb. See one Thragtusk in her hand, and she's mana ramping with an Avacyn's Pilgrim. So in Thea's hand, we've got land. It looks like we've got an Angel, a Thragtusk. I don't see any mulches, but like she's not showing all of her hand.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing right here is really what speaks to the format. If you're not playing a Burning Tree Emissary deck, most of your important plays are at 4 and 5 in this format. So you'll see these decks overloading on things like mana creatures, or just basically ways to skip to the relevant part of the game.
Yep.
The fact that Cedric never missed his land drop, he kept a 1-lander, it looks like, is really punishing here. Even more so because Thea's playing 3 Garruk Relentless in the main deck, so she's able to make one next turn. She could very quickly attack Cedric's mana base.
Yeah, so Cedric drew a Dragonsteel Summit for the turn, so he is going to get to progress his game plan a little bit, but he's got a lot of red cards in his hand. It looks like he's got at least one Bonfire in there, a card that, you know, he thinks is very good in the meta right now, but is not great if it's in your opening hand instead of being on the top of your deck.
Yeah, and it's still pretty good in this matchup. An early Miracle Bonfire can really affect the mana creature mirrors. I think what we also are going to see, what I kind of like, I'm looking at Thea's list, and she has meted her list somewhat, and I do like this. She has 3 Acidic Slimes in the main deck and 3 Garruk Relentlesses in the main deck. Like I said, especially in this matchup, you're going to see Thea attacking Cedric's mana base pretty hard here.
Yep, so Cedric casts a Gyre Sage, attacks with his Arbor Elf, plays the Dragonsteel Summit, and passes the turn. Thea doesn't have ways to get things into her graveyard right now, but she does have an Unburial Rites in her hand, and it looks like she has a 4-drop of some sort to just hardcast, and there's the Garruk that you were talking about. It's going to go ahead and take out the Gyre Sage. It's going to flip over, and probably we're going to see Cedric attack into it and just kill it. But still a 1-for-1 trade with that mana creature.
Depending on what Cedric's hand is here, because actually Garruk is scarier to him as Relentless. Garruk the Veil Cursed is less threatening to Cedric's board. If he has a 4-drop, we may not see, you know, he may just choose to develop his board instead of attacking the Garruk. You know, if he has something like a Falconwrath Aristocrat or a Thundermaw Hellkite in his hand, you know, the Death Touch Wolves aren't particularly relevant.
Okay, so we see him hardcasting the Bonfire to kill the Pilgrim and to deal 1 damage to the Garruk, and then the second Arbor Elf goes ahead and finishes it off.
He essentially played the Bonfire there just as a 3-mana kill spell for a mana creature. I think he's really wary of Thea getting to 5 mana quickly. The Acidic Slime, obviously, Thragtusk, which she only has 3 of, actually. Are things that he, in his current state, would have trouble dealing with. Of note of Thea's deck, it's a little more of a value place deck with her build of it. She does not have any cards like no Obzidats or Craterhoof Behemoths. Really, her late game is just 3 Angel Serenity, 3 Thragtusk, 3 Restoration Angel. Yep.
So we see Thea play a untapped Temple Garden there. She's telegraphing the Restoration Angel in her hand. Cedric's going to realize that, but you know, it's probably not going to impact his gameplay other than he's not going to attack with his Arbor Elf this turn.
Right, he doesn't really need to attack. You know, he's really just trying to develop resources here. So he can respect, even if it is a bluff, he can just respect the bluff.
And so we see a Borderland Ranger fetching a mountain, much needed mana source, and then a Flinthoof Boar. So Cedric is building up an army right now. but the Restoration Angel is going to at least stop these creatures from being able to attack.
Right, and now we get to the point where Thea's going to start making drag tusking. Angel, like a stream of drag tusks. So it'll be, can Cedric, as planned, go over the top of this?
And it looks like Thea declined to cast the Restoration Angel in her hand at the end of Cedric's turn because she wants to cast the Thrag Tusk and then get value out of the Resto Angel. So she was able to basically keep Cedric from attacking her for a turn by taking the damage of having that untapped land and leaving up the threat of the Restoration Angel, but she didn't make use of it.
Right. So we see. All right, and there's the card. So Cedric with Thundermaw Hellkite. This is his plan to go over the top of Thragtusk, and we'll see if he does accomplish it.
Yeah, it may be a little bit too late in the game for Cedric. Like he stalled a bit on mana, and it's taken him a while, and so Tea's up and running with her Thragtusk plan at this point, and we'll see if it's taken too long for Cedric to get.
Yeah. I mean, really what's going to happen is the only answer, Thea has a couple answers to Thundermaw Hellkite. She found one of them there in Lingering Souls in the Hurry Graveyard. Obviously that's not an answer, but it buys her a lot of time.
Yep.
She's going to eventually try to find an Angel of Serenity. And when that happens, I think, I don't think Cedric will be able to go over the top of her game plan anymore.
Yeah. Now, if she's able to stabilize at like 10 life, 8 life, 9 life, somewhere around there with an Angel of Serenity, then she's going to be in very good shape. What she doesn't want to be at is she doesn't want to be at 5 life or less with the Angel of Serenity, because the Thundermaw Hellkite will tap it when it comes into play and get through for the last bits of damage. So once again, is telegraphing the Restoration Angel in her hand. I don't think that's going to change Cedric's play that much. He wasn't going to attack with any of his ground guys in the first place.
Well, he's attacking with none of them or all of them. And I don't think it's probably, he's weighing that option. I would imagine he doesn't really have enough damage right now to push through the remainder of her life total, but depending on what's in his hand, he may have to start trying. Cedric's big worry is that Thea has something like 3 Restoration Angels in her hand. And the way she played it, I think the one thing he can have telegraphed here is because Thea didn't play the first Restoration Angel on that turn 4 when she shocked herself. I think if you're looking into it, you as Cedric can assume that she probably only has 1 Restoration Angel. If she had 2 or 3, she probably would have made that blocker there.
That makes a lot of sense. That she basically could afford to use all of her mana at that point and afford to waste the Restoration Angel because she was going to have enough later on.
Right. So that tells me she only has 1 Restoration Angel, the one in her hand.
Yeah.
It's really funny how Thragtusk changes. We're sitting here with one player at 20 and 6 creatures in play, another player at 12 with 1 in play, and we're like, oh, that person at 12 is so far ahead right now. And how's he going to deal the remainder of the damage?
Yeah. It's very true, and at this point, Cedric kind of needs to peel probably another big flyer.
He appears to have a Gyre Sage in his hand. I can't tell. I mean, it looks like a Gyre Sage and Arbor Elf, so he doesn't really have.
Maybe another Borderland Ranger. It looks like he has got 3 cards.
Yep.
So we have the Thundermaw come in. Thea's just going to take it, go to 7. At this point, she's just being careful to make sure that Cedric doesn't have a removal spell in response to the Angel.
Cedric makes the rest of his board, and we'll see Restoration Angel repair the damage there.
And so we're anticipating that Thea is going to play the Restoration Angel and then flashback Lingering Souls and have a significant board to slow Cedric down.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's kind of a race between whether Cedric can find another threat off the top before Thea is able to get another Thragtusk or get another Restoration Angel or get an Angel of Serenity.
Right. What he needs, so I think he has a fair number of options to find. I think another Thundermaw or another Bonfire will get this for him. I don't know if he has another card, maybe even Falconwrath Aristocrat, but
yeah,
because he does have human fodder in play, so that would also be acceptable. He's also playing 4 Gore-Clan Rampager, which I haven't counted it out, but I believe has the potential to push enough damage here for him to lethal from 12.
that seems right. And so we've got. Well, okay, so we have Unburial Rites now targeting the acidic slime that was hit off of a mulch before.
Right, not the ideal target, but a fine enough one.
Yeah, and so the important thing about that was that it's able to get the one forest that Cedric had, which not only turns off that forest, but also turns off all the Arborels.
All 3 Arborels. So now a bonfire would be a bonfire for 1 as opposed to a bonfire for 4.
Yeah, so Cedric goes from 6 mana down to 2 and goes from one of his 2
quad
primary
stone.
colors. Yeah.
I guess he's drawn Temple Garden, I want to say. I couldn't actually tell on that one.
I think it might be a root-bound crag, but he definitely drew a land
that'd be
there.
a big difference.
Yeah.
One of them says forest, the other doesn't.
Well,
Arborel can be very frustrating that way sometimes.
So Cedric, again, is doing the math, which probably has not gotten very much better for him. You know, he added 2 power to his board last turn, and Thea has since added an additional 3 blockers, 4 blockers. Do you think he's going to attack with the Thundermaw Hellkite? He has the opportunity to offer Thea to trade.
Yeah, it would trade with 1 spirit token and 1 in the angel. My hunch is that he's still going to make that trade, because what it does is it turns on, no, probably not, because that gives Thea the opportunity to Unburial Rites flashback on the angel if he kills it, which seems to me to be pretty bad. Right now, like I said, a top deck, well, because a top deck Thundermaw doesn't win for him, he needs a forest and a Thundermaw.
Yeah.
That said, Thea hasn't proven to him that she actually has any action right now. Like, we're not convinced that she's drawing any more live than he is.
Yeah, and so at this point, though, Cedric doesn't know whether or not the 3 cards in Thea's hand are useful or not, because she's used all of her mana every turn, other than the 1 turn that she left up the Restoration Angel, but chose not to use it. So, like, he has every indication that she might have 3 live cards, and things are not getting much better.
He probably can't beat 3 live cards, and that's an amazing draw for Thea. She did, she drew
have
Angel
Serenity.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't even need too much life. She does have a Gavoni Township in play, so really he's got to figure, no matter what she's doing this turn, it's pretty bad for him.
Yeah. So at this point, if you're Thea, you're pretty far ahead. What is your plan for closing out this game? Like, how conservatively are you going to play this? Are you going to be trying to just sit back until you have an overwhelming advantage? Or are you going to try to get damage in now because you want to make sure that you close out outs for Cedric?
Well, you want to just close off his outs, I think, as much as possible. And sometimes for outs you can't close out. Forest into Bonfire, for example, is an out she can't really close. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some sense of urgency to not let that out happen. She does see happen. If he makes a forest, if he plays a forest, I think her clock changes significantly. All right, so there's the Miracle Bonfire. Exactly as they're saying, the lack of forest there, brutal.
Yeah, it's really dramatic. And so Thea declines to use the Gavoni Township in response, so she loses both the spirit tokens, which she would have lost regardless, and the acidic slime.
She goes to 10. The question is if this is lethal now.
So
she made no play that turn, so she was just hoping the Township. She did not make the Angel Serenity.
Yeah.
Putting her to 10, if she swings the team here, she could. And then it's not.
So if he swings with the team, we block the Thundermaw Hellkite. We block.
You probably block a Thundermaw Hellkite and Flinto for.
And a 2/2, and so you get hit by a 2/2 and 4 1-power guys.
I'm not sure you want to block. If at all possible, you don't want to block the Thragtusk so that you can Unburial Rites the Restoration Angel.
Right, but you can use the Thragtusk to block one of the 2/2s, and you can use the token.
But it has 2 damage on it already.
So that's true.
Anything that blocks here is going to be taken down pretty much.
Yeah.
She has to be careful about that. So I think Cedric counting. If he turns the team sideways, what does happen? He does have, if she blocks the Flinto 4 and the Thundermaw Hellkite, she's actually only taking 9 damage instead of 10. So she can afford to not block the Thragtusk. That's a scary position to be in for sure.
Yeah.
If I'm Cedric, I think I almost still want to make the attack. I don't see us reasonably getting a better top deck or a better window to do something with. she can't kill everything, and because of the lack of blockers, he's threatening a lethal attack the next turn.
Yeah, and like he's putting her in a position that, as far as he can tell, she needs to start chumping the Thundermaw Hellkite every turn.
Right. I mean, what he doesn't know is that she's going to play the Angel for the Angel of Serenity, and that's going to get him here. But if he assumes he doesn't have one, I think it's probably the whole team here. At very least, it's Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah. So.
But the reason you'd want to play attack with everything is you kind of want to force her to chump Thundermaw this turn, because I mean, she'll have the Restoration Angel off on Burial Rites anyway, but you're going to have to start eating through these Restoration Angels in some way.
Right. So Cedric's continuing to contemplate the attack, and he chooses to go with just the Thundermaw Hellkite. We expect that we're going to see the Restoration Angel chump here.
I'd say a chump block, absolutely.
Yeah. Thea gets a lot of value out of that because she gets to Unburial Rites to gain the 5 life, get a beast token, and so we're going to see the Gavany Township here.
Yeah, so really that first Acidic Slime play, I think a really heads-up play earlier on by Thea, when she had the option. She had an option of a lot more aggressive plays, but she just chose to tap out an Acidic Slime with a Forest, and that really saved her, right?
Yeah.
If Cedric had had a Forest, that Bonfire would have been game-winning.
Yes, absolutely. It would have been for 5 points of damage. It would have killed Thea's entire team. She would have had a beast token, and Cedric would have been able to just attack in for lethal there. And so now she has this interesting choice of, do I want to cast the Angel of Serenity, or do I want to bring back the Restoration Angel and gain some life? She chooses to cast the Angel of Serenity, and she's going to get rid of that Thundermaw Hellkite, and it looks like she's getting 2 creatures from her graveyard.
So I don't really like that. I don't like the Resto play there. I kind of wish she would have left the Restoration Angel in the graveyard.
Okay.
I would have, interestingly enough, removing Cedric's, because it increases her clock by being able to Unburial Rites it. And if she wants to remove his attackers, getting herself an additional blocker in the by flickering Thragtusk to me seems almost as valuable as removing one of his creatures.
Yeah, I agree. I think her line of thinking there is that she wants to save the Unburial Rites to bring back the Restoration Angel in case Cedric has like a Dreadbore. Or sorry, the Angel of Serenity, in case Cedric has a Dreadbore or something.
Right, she's setting up for that really late game.
Yeah.
You know, that looping Angels that really... I don't know if she needs to set up for that.
Yeah, I think it's actually more important, like you said, to sort of stabilize right now immediately, and so have the play of get rid of 2 of your attackers, which effectively gets me an extra blocker, and then next turn follow up with the Restoration Angel, get to a really healthy life total such that another Bonfire isn't dangerous to me.
Yeah, because her danger here is that if she swings, every time she swings a flyer, she's removing a blocker, and that's you know, she's just saying go right now.
Yeah, she is giving Cedric time to draw out of this, and while it's unlikely that he's going to draw something...
one Thundermaw Hellkite a Thundermaw Hellkite is what he's drawing to get out of this. Or a Dreadbore, really.
Yeah, and so he's drawing to Mana Source Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah, I mean, she still is definitely in command of this game. So, and Cedric playing Burning Tree so that he can get that 5th mana on the Gyre Sage Evolve.
Right. So now Cedric is definitely drawing live to the Thundermaw Hellkite, and how are we? Oh, that's right. He already had it. So we tap the Angel.
So he has it immediately. Oh, he already had it. All right. Yeah, he actually produced a mana with that Burning Tree Emissary.
Right.
All right.
And is this lethal? It looks like it is. He's basically doing her blocks for her.
Here's that danger when you're saying, you know, kind of we're wishing for that, and I don't know flashback on Restoration Angel makes a big difference here.
I think it does in that, like, we get one extra ground blocker.
He gets 10. It still taps both her flyer. It still taps all her flyers. Then he has.
Yeah, but she's at 5 higher life, and she's got an additional ground blocker.
Yeah, she's essentially not at higher life because he still has another Thundermaw. He has 2 Thundermaws in play now, so I think it's still a lethal swing. Because then she doesn't remove the Thundermaw.
She gets to remove an additional attack.
She gets. Yeah.
So I think she's in a much sort of more stable and healthier place.
So Cedric does draw that out for game 1. That's I think coming back from behind there, but I think really he played to his outs very well there.
Yeah. No, he definitely was calculating, like, I can't afford to throw away these ground attackers right now because I need to make sure that, you know, if something bad happens, I have them later for an alpha strike, and especially that Gyre Sage. Conserving that was really important for him. So we moved to sideboarding for this game. What do you like here?
Well, let's look at what each player has in their sideboard. So Thea is going to become pretty much more of a control, as much more of a control deck as she can be. She has a 4th Thrag Tusk on the board, which certainly comes in. She does have 2 Tragic Slips in her board. I doubt she'll know that she's supposed to be boarding them in. Those cards typically there as an answer to Falconwrath Aristocrat. She might suspect. If I saw Cedric's deck, I would suspect Aristocrat out of his deck, just with those colors and the way his deck seems to play.
Yeah.
You know, it has a lot of humans. It seemed most decks that play Thunder by Hellkite would also play Aristocrat.
And she didn't see anything in game 1 that would indicate the black splash, and so like that is the card that is most obvious for a black splash.
The card I really like here in her sideboard, which I think is relevant here, is Tristani Celestia's Voice. She has 2 of those. That I think gives her a cheap way to close out the game. It's a very relevant blocker, and it's a repeatable life gain source, which I think is really something that Cedric doesn't want to see against her.
No, it gives her an additional piece of inevitability that also stabilizes her in the near term.
Right. Cards I don't like in the matchup, which I think I'd see her boarding out for them. I don't really like Acidic Slime. It's a 2/2 for 5, and I don't really want to trade it with Grizzly Bears. And although she got rid of that forest that game, which was amazing, I think that's the best you're ever going to see Acidic Slime in this matchup, and that was still just okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was important for the way that match played out, but like you said, it was sort of like the optimal circumstances for it, and Cedric still was able to get around it.
So Cedric's deck I think, you know, has a lot of options.
Yeah. So we have 2 Ground Seal in Cedric's sideboard that I expect that he's going to bring in.
Absolutely.
He has the option of bringing in his own Garruk Relentlesses
to
fight Thea's, and also to deal with her mana creatures. And you know, we've got a Singleton Zealous Conscripts that he might bring in as a way to sort of go over the top of an Angel of Serenity.
Yeah, all of those seem like really positive things to board in. Both of these are mana dork decks, so I when you look at what's in Cedric, like, there's this element when you're playing 2 Birds of Paradise decks against each other, essentially. I use that term loosely. I could be talking about Landwar Elves, Absence Pilgrims, Arbor Elves, Birds of Paradise, you know, elf decks. There's a phase of the game where you start playing your heavy hitters, but before that there's this early phase of the game where each of you is doing mana development, where we've typically seen cards like Bonfire of the Damned or Arc Trail just be completely insane. Garruk Relentless falls into that category of you're essentially trying to never let your opponent start the game. And I would see, you know, Cedric has 4 Bonfires, which is really good in that situation. Like we said before, you might even see him. You probably won't see him boarding things like Pillar, because Pillar doesn't actually beat your opponent. If there's anything that's a 2-for-1, though, I think you will see him board in.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with opposing Birds of Paradise, Landwar Elves, you really want to have cards that get you up on card advantage while killing them, or have some value in the later parts of the game. And Pillar is not ideal there because it's only good if it's in your opening hand and you're able to go, you know, if you're able to kill their turn 1 guy on your turn 1.
So cards you like I said, are, you know, back even when you used to have Spark Mage Apprentice in Standard, that would typically be something you'd board in this kind of matchup.
Yeah.
Just anyway, you know, your opponent is going to keep land light hands with mana creatures that they're counting as lands, and if you can disrupt that count, you can score free wins.
So
does look like Thea's on the mulligan in this game. Yep.
So we have a couple lands. We've got Bonfire in Cedric's hand, so a Forest and a Rootbound Crag. I'm not sure if he has any mana guys. But you know, Cedric looks happy and confident. He's getting all psyched up.
Yeah, I think a lot of the mental game of these long tournaments can be really tough on players. You really got to kind of keep an even. You can't play with emotion for every round in the game. You know, you eventually reach this zone where you just kind of have to start plotting through it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a proponent of like the steady, even sort of mental state instead of trying to ride the highs and lows. So it looks like Thea likes her 6. She leads with the Temple Garden. We've got a Garruk in her hand, another Temple Garden.
Looks like
on Burial Rites. And Forest, no mana guy. Looks like Cedric has some sort of flip card, so that would be a Garruk in his hand as well. So we're going to have a Garruk fight.
Yep. Tea's is going to get down first, so she'll score some wolves off it. I think he just lands on Burial Rites Garruk in Tea's hand though, which is problematic. It can be fixed by one Grizzly Salvage, which is the good news. We have Ground Seal by Cedric. That will effectively just disable the Unburial Rites in her hand.
Yep, that's a M13 rare that prevents people from targeting cards in graveyards. So here we have the Garruk from Thea, and she's going to start making wolves. Cedric's going to be able to answer that, but it's going to take a little time. I think what we're going to see is like a turn for Garruk of his own to legend rule the existing Garruk, and then maybe a bonfire to clear out the Pilgrim and the wolves.
Yeah, because Thea's hand is very light on threats right now. Cedric's kind of adopts the control role at the beginning of this game. He really just needs to make sure that he can answer. As long as he can one-for-one her on answers and then kind of clean up afterward, then he can win with whatever creatures he has.
Yeah, they both have kind of slow, threat-light, answer-heavy hands, or they're relying on the Garruks for answers. So Cedric goes ahead and plays 2 Arbor Elves. He's expecting that one of them is going to die to the Garruk. But then he's going to have the extra mana and is potentially going to be able to hardcast the Bonfire next turn to deal 2 damage to Thea's entire board and kill the Garruk. So we see some punching.
And she just leaves up her mana and a timely Miracle Bond. That's a very timely Bonfire for Cedric. And Township's not going to save anything.
No.
Here. She's realizing. Okay, it's 3. Yep. So he'll just get her entire board there.
Which is much better than trying to hardcast the one from his hand, which he needed the extra land for, and was not going to bypass the Township for that wolf.
Yeah, and that's just brutal there. Thea did draw a Grizzly Salvage, so the good news is that Cedric really hasn't put any pressure on her.
Yeah.
I don't know. She has 1 Abrupt Decay in her sideboard. Other than that, she doesn't really have ways to answer this Ground Seal, which means she's going to have to be careful. It's going to be harder for her to develop the late game inevitability that the deck normally has.
Yeah, she's going to want to use it to actually find a threat instead of putting threats in her graveyard.
And this is where it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
That Cedric, with his now Thundermaw Hellkite.
So Cedric's able to use the Burning Tree Emissary to fix his mana to get the double red to cast the Thundermaw. We have the Grizzly Salvage in response or at the end of the turn. We've got Acidic Slime and is that
Angel of Serenity?
Angel of Serenity.
Those are the only realistic choices here. And because she doesn't have her hand as Unburial Rites land, I think she's forced to take Angel of Serenity.
Yeah, and so she has to hope to rip a land the next turn, and that Cedric isn't able to really punish her for taking turn 6 off.
It's
as well.
actually 1 turn past that because she only has 5 lands now, and Angel's a 7. So
right.
She's gonna have to take. Yeah, she's gonna have to take.
So
a fair amount of heat this
she's
next
gonna,
turn.
So the next turn she's not going to do anything, and she still has to rip a land to on turn 7 be able to play the Angel.
It's scary because this line of play that she's going to end up making is very soft to a Dreadbore. Even when because she'll have to make the Angel just because she can't target graveyards. The only thing she can get rid of is just all of Cedric's team. If he has the removal spell, he'll just get to reload.
And if he has any haste creature here, well, I guess he can't really cast any other haste creatures, but he's going to be able to attack for 8 right now. Thea's actually at 15, so she's going to go down to 7 this turn.
He could draw a Flint of 4 as a haste creature.
That's true.
But you're right.
He could also have one in hand.
Thea's currently actually at 15, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're anticipating her going down to 7 this turn, unless Cedric chooses to play around Restoration Angel. But I think he's probably not going to.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. The Restoration Angel, all it would take is a 2/2. Yeah.
So Thea's going down to 7.
Yeah, this is a fairly dire
see if Cedric has anything to follow up with. He knows that the Angel of Serenity is in her hand, so he's able to play around it and play perfectly, and the question is, what that means.
Yeah, so just we're working on life totals. We believe it's right now it's set 20-7 as the life totals.
Yeah.
And this is a great follow-up play for Cedric. It's a threat that really gets around Angel of Serenity right now.
Yeah. So he's going to be able to make a wolf off of it and still have creatures in play.
Well, the hard thing is that Thea will probably be unable to swing to kill the Garruk, because by the time that the Angel of Serenity will be able to swing, Garruk will have 2 wolves in play, and that plus casting Wolf Run is enough for lethal. So she'll actually have to start holding back the Angel on defense, which then gives Cedric permission to continue to make wolves.
Yeah.
The fact that this operates on another axis, I think, has actually removed her out, as far as I can tell.
Also, Thea draws a Restoration Angel for the turn. She plays her Angel of Serenity, and she's going to need to get the Thundermaw at the very least, and I'd imagine a wolf, and there isn't anything interesting in her graveyard, right? So
no, I mean, she had there's another line, like she had a different line available to her at the time. When she was Grizzly salvaging, she could have taken the Acidics line and hit the Ground Seal, and then unbarrel right to the Angel.
Yeah.
I kind of, because the Ground Seal is still in play, no, she doesn't really have any. She has no other targets.
Yeah. I guess actually that line probably works out better for her because she gets the Angel at the exact same time that she did in this.
Yeah, she still gets it on the same turn.
And she gets the Acidic Slime out, and she's able to take out the Ground Seal so that her unburial rights has value later.
Right.
So that looks like it's probably nicer for her. So Cedric at this point, like he could attack in with the Burning Tree Emissary because he has enough with the fight from. Okay.
So he's going to double fight the Angel.
Yeah. And then get in for 2.
I always love the flavor of Magic. It's like, well, Garruk teamed up with Garruk to take down that Angel. It's like, wait. Yes. Basically reloading Cedric's hand.
Yeah. So Thea's down to 5.
Cedric with the 5/5 haste flyer.
With the 5/5 haste flyer that you're not going to be able to block unless she has a reach guy.
Well, she does have a Restoration Angel, which she can wait until it's cast and then flash it in and chomp, which is miserable, but an option.
That's true.
I don't, the problem is that doesn't really make any progress toward winning.
And so that just stalls for a turn, and she loses 3 life to the Burning Tree Emissary and the Arbor Elf.
Well, yeah, that's rough. I mean, she's also facing down a bonfire in Cedric's hand. I don't really see a reasonable line for her here.
So Cedric is doing some math. It looks like, is that a Borderland Ranger that he's thinking about playing? It is. All right, comes into play. He's going to go ahead and get a land. Not entirely sure what he's playing around here.
I think it's safer for him to just continue to make more creatures here. I think that seems like a safer line. This is almost as much damage as Thundermaw Hellkite, but it also, were she to have an answer, it better reloads for next turn. I mean, it's a little neither here or there. We're debating different ways of winning the game, but the reason is, with this attack, he can get her to a life total where a bonfire is lethal next turn.
Yep.
So there's, he doesn't even have to use the dragon.
All right, and we have the handshake. So Cedric Phillips is victorious over Steele with his green-red-black aggro deck versus Junk Reanimator.
Yeah, not just so. I mean, we're calling it green-red-black. It is Jund aggro. It's really hard to say because it's not Jund aggro because that's a different deck, and it's not Jund midrange because that's definitely a different deck.
It really feels like a green-red deck.
I agree.
A green-red aggro deck that we've seen a lot of people play. There are some PTQ results over the last weekend. I believe it's actually based on a deck that Russ Merriam either top-8'd a PTQ with or won with. So he actually top-8'd the Invitational with it.
Yeah, and that was just a green-red deck, I believe.
Yeah,
so, and now
but it had that Gyre Sage and Big Guy sort of thing going on.
What it really reminds me of is, for those of you who played Innistrad Block Constructed, the format eventually reached this point after the Pro Tour where there was basically a Jundish deck, which looked very similar to what Cedric's playing right now. And I